So this is the award, which is all lovely, beautiful and shiny. And it was wonderful to get the award. A surprise that I was judged to be a good author of stories for children. That was very gratifying. It wasn't just the plaque itself, but when I read all the analysis of what I'd written, it was also complimentary. That was really the greatest thrill, I think, that people really think that I can write, and that I can write stories for children that they will enjoy. Now, what inspiration led me, I'll put it here, to write the stories? Well, the first one was Thomas's Nice Day. I was staying with my daughter. She then had her first baby, Thomas, and we were taking him to kindergarten, sort of daycare. And he cried all the way, made his face all horribly blotchy, because he didn't really want to go today because his friend Harry wasn't there. And I thought, that really would make a very good story. So that was the first one. And then my husband and I spent a lot of time looking after two others of our grandchildren. They often came to stay with us, and that was the reason for the story I wrote about the bedroom frogs. In northern Australia, where I live in Queensland, we have very beautiful green tree frogs, and they often come into houses at night and climb up into the corners of the room. It's almost as though they think it's the equivalent of a tree. And then as night falls and it gets a little bit dark, they climb down and out they go in order to catch their supper, and they're back again in the morning. And my two grandchildren, Tanika and Jeremy, at the time, actually were there when this happened. So that was a little true story. And then I started remembering other things. The story Cluckbog, my middle son Philip's imaginary fox friend, where we eventually, the story my son made up, or he didn't make it up, he really thought he did have a fox friend. It was finally resolved in England when he actually found a whole family of foxes. So that's some of the questions. How did I become involved with Scriptmarker? I'd published the stories independently, and I didn't know what was really happening, whether they were selling. And it was actually Ben Thomas who rang me, who said that I needed to be better known as an author, and that was something they could do for me. And I thought, that sounds like a really good idea. Let's go along with that. And that journey was also involved my now very good friend Eric, who's just really worn himself out promoting my stories, me and my books, which is just wonderful. I'm so grateful for both of them, for Eric and Ben, and for Scriptmarker. And it has been really a huge thrill to actually be an award winner. That's wonderful. So I thank everybody who's contributed to this achievement. Now my grandchildren, who feature in so many of the stories, are grown up. A little Tom, who cried all his way to kindergarten, is now a doctor, and he's got his own little boy who's called Arthur, and he's just had a little baby girl who's called Juliet. She is actually called after me, because I'm Julia, she's Juliet. I now have 6 great-grandchildren, and of course they're all very small at the moment, but they will soon be at the age where my stories can actually be read to them. And when I go to see them, I think we'll have little adventures that will be part of more stories. I've already written one story for the eldest of my great-grandchildren, who's called Ivy, and it's a story about what in Australia are echidnas, that they're spiky animals, very like the European, like the British hedgehogs that I grew up with. And I think in America you have porcupines, but they're very big, but they're all rather spiny creatures, so I've called that story Prickles. I also write some poems. I like the Japanese poetry form haiku, because it's so brief and you can say something quite meaningful in 2 or 3 lines. And I tend to illustrate those with pictures that I've taken, because apart from writing stories, I'm also a very keen photographer, and I've sometimes used one of my pictures to illustrate a haiku that I've written. I've just checked, and the one question that I haven't answered is what problems did I encounter when writing the stories, and how did I overcome them? Writing the stories, I didn't really have anything to overcome. Getting them published so that people can read them, and I envisaged other grandparents and parents reading these stories to small children, and children, once they can read reasonably well, being able to read them for themselves. And for that to happen, one has to be recognized as an author. One's name needs to be known, and that was difficult. And that, I think, is what a script marker with Ben and Eric has done for me. That now I'm an award winner. My books might have that much more appeal. People will buy them to read to their children, their grandchildren, and I hope that they will enjoy them. That's what I really wanted. Having written the stories, I wanted them to be read. And I hope that is what's going to happen. And of course, I'm looking forward to reading my stories to my own great-grandchildren. I've got a 3-and-a-bit-year-old and a 2-and-a-half-year-old, so it won't be long now. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'm off to a family wedding. One of my grandsons is getting married. He is actually the father of little Ivy that I wrote the Prickles story for. And I think I will take some copies of my books with me on my trip. So I've been a very lucky person. Lucky, I suppose, that I'm able to write. It's something I seem able to do, which is very gratifying. And that people who can help me have supported me and supported me to get this wonderful award. So thank you to everybody. I think it's time to say goodbye, briefly.